Welcome back to Services Australia. Now, Mr Hazelhurst, I believe you have a short update following Senator Ruston and Senator Allman-Payne's questioning.
We do. Thank you, Chair. I'll pass to my colleague, Mr Turnbull.
Thank you. So, Stuart Turnbull, Acting Deputy CEO, Program Design Group. So, Senator Ruston, you were asking about the contribution rate letters and what would happen if there were potential errors in those letters. So we could have, in those circumstances, the care recipient contact us. The provider could contact us as well because they also get a copy of those letters. If we got that contact, we would look into the letter again and the means assessment which underpins the contribution rate. Means assessments are regularly updated as circumstances change. So as income and assets changes, the means will change. If, for example, we determined that an individual should have had a care recipient should have had a lower contribution rate, we would backdate their contribution to the right date so that they paid a lower amount for aged care from the right point in time. And that would be applied through the amounts that we pay to providers through the provider payments. Just to confirm as well that anything service agreement related between providers and care recipients, the department will cover that off tomorrow, including any concerns about those letters. What I can reiterate though is that our payments to providers for support at home are not contingent on there being a signed letter between the care recipient and the provider.
I think that was my point, that there wasn't, more so than there was. Because if there isn't a signed agreement, how do you know what the agreement is?
Well, we've determined the contribution rate that should be paid and we'll get the invoices in and we'll determine the subsidy amounts based on that.
Yeah, no, my concern was that if somebody hadn't signed an agreement, their circumstance or their situation changed on the 1st of November because their contribution had changed because of the new rules or the new co-payment arrangements. What then happened if some time down the track they chose not to sign that particular agreement? There may well have been quite significant costs incurred that would have been, there would have been an expectation that the recipient would have had to make that contribution, but they haven't signed an agreement to accept that. Where does that liability sit and whose responsibility is that to determine? Because you can't make somebody pay for something if they haven't signed an agreement to say that they're prepared to pay it. And if there's a lag between the 1st of November and when they sign the agreement or don't sign the agreement, what happens in that period of time?
I think you'd have to take that one up.
That's a matter for the department. Yep. Okay. Thank you very much.
And Senator Allman-Payne, there was one other aspect I just wanted to reiterate. You were asking about the key performance measures, and we were talking about 28-day key performance measures. So they're the measures that we use for our means assessments and for our hardship claims. We also have a 7-day key performance measure for processing provider claims. So as we were saying, we're starting to see those support at home claims come through, and that'll grow in the coming days, and we'll be working toward that 7-day processing of those claims.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Thank you very much, Mr Turnbull. We'll now go to questioning and we'll start with Senator Allman-Payne.
Thanks very much, Chair. This sort of questions is in relation to the 44,000 people who overpaid money to Centrelink, which I think was referred to in the earlier panel. Sorry to shift you around.
Thanks, Senator.
Thanks, Mr. Birra. Just some questions in relation to those 44,000. I noted when you were answering the questions from Senator Whittaker that you said that Services Australia was undertaking a process of repaying those debts. Are you able to tell me how many of the debts so far out of that 44,000 have been paid back?
Yes, and Chris Birra, Deputy CEO of Payments and Integrity Group. Yes, and as of the 27th of November, there's been 303 of the people have been repaid their overpayment amount, and a further 111 cases have been assessed where a refund was not owed. And I think that goes to the point, Senator, what we were saying before, where we believe that there's approximately 44,000 people who might have paid a debt or overpaid a debt that might not have been repaid. It can be unclear. We've done sort of the data check to the extent that we can in terms of extracting data from the system as to those people who their debt record has a signature that suggests that they have overpaid and haven't been repaid. But when our staff are checking as part of that process, we find that they were indeed paid, but it was just not recorded in a way that was evident in the customer's record.
Okay. Sorry, I'm always flabbergasted at how, again, errors can be made on the Services Australia end, and then there's this length of time taken to address it, but we just continually see vulnerable people, the minute they make an error, it's cut off. But nevertheless, it's where we are.
Our systems are large and complex. We've discussed this with the committee before, Senator, that the payments that we're administering are often very complex themselves, and so the IT systems supporting that are complex, and it's at a very large scale.
And I certainly understand that, Mr. Birra, but the people who are being impacted by that are very vulnerable, and we're asking them to deal with a very complex system. So I think you've actually got it in a nutshell. It's ridiculously complex, and people make errors. But nevertheless, are you able to tell me when the problem in relation to those 44,000 overpayments was first detected?
We first detected, Senator, that there was an issue with some of these cases earlier this year. It was raised by one of our staff members.
Do you know what month that was?
I think it was about March from memory, the initial indications, but there was then several months of refining the data sets of identifying who amongst all the overpayments might not have been repaid, noting that the agency regularly pays on an annual basis over 100,000 people. We refund their overpayments, and often they're quite small amounts because they're from the final payment somebody makes as part of a repayment arrangement.
So is the system being fixed so that if some... Oh, sorry, that's a drug alarm. Is the system been fixed now so that if somebody has finished making repayments, that there's an automatic flag, letter, contact to let people know that they need to, their payments have stopped now and that they need to take action so no more further repayments are made?
What we've done now, Senator, is that we've put in place two things. One is that the system will often automatically refund people where there is an overpayment. But in those cases where there is then a manual component that the staff have to undertake, there's been additional training done by the staff and additional quality processes put in place so that we have assurance that the work is being done correctly.
You said that it first became apparent around March that these overpayments had been made.
That there was an issue amongst them. We didn't fully define it at that point.
Yeah, okay. Now that you have you fully defined it now?
We have, Senator. So we've identified what it is in terms of the cases where we believe this has been impacted, and as I think we've noted before, these instances go back to 2007.
Okay.
There's a range of cases with a certain cluster around the period of about 2016 to 2019, where there was a fairly large amount, but there's been some every year back to 2007. What we've done in response is continued to refine the data sets and reconfirm that we have actually caught everyone who could potentially be impacted, noting that there is a manual process as well as putting in those steps going forward to ensure that we're confident that we're making refunds correctly now going forward.
Okay, thank you. My next lot of questions are around compulsory income management. I did ask some questions at the last estimates around this, and I guess for context, to note that this hasn't been progressed any further publicly. I've certainly had stakeholders reach out to say they're really trying to understand where things are at in relation to this. Last estimates, I asked you questions around the future of income management consultations that had happened from November 2023 to December 2024. I'm seeking to understand, given a couple of things. One, comments made by the then Minister Burney, and I think I've got an article that I took them from. These comments were made on Tuesday 19th of April to The Guardian, and Minister Burney said, "Our fundamental principle on the Basics card and the cashless debit card is that it should be on a voluntary basis." She said, "If people want to be on those sorts of income management, so income management generally, then that's their decision. It's not up to Labor or anyone else to tell them what to do. At the moment, it's compulsion, and that's not Labor's position." And I also note, and thank you for the answers that you provided on notice at the last hearings, because I asked questions around how many people are on compulsory income management, how much of it is voluntary, how much is it compulsory, and I note that there's a significant, most of the people that are on income management at the moment, it's far and away compulsory, not voluntary. And I note again too that it's very much skewed towards First Nations communities. So given that the consultations have suggested that large numbers of people don't want to be on compulsory income management, that it was Minister Burney's and the government's position prior 3 years ago that no one should be on compulsory income management, and given that the government's had that report for some time now, could you tell me what steps have been taken by both the Minister and the Department since those consultations were concluded regarding the future of income management since we last spoke?
A very comprehensive question, Senator. You'll have to forgive me though. So our role is to administer whatever the government decides to do with income management. And whilst we provide input and we're engaged in the process of DSS and their minister's consideration of those issues.
Are you telling me this is a DSS question?
Your question will need to be directed to DSS.
I think it's,
my apologies.
Okay,
it is always a difficult sort of split, but the policy issues and that sort of future-focused stuff is...
Thanks, Chair.
Sorry.
And yes, it was always much more helpful when you were in community affairs, because then we could ask everyone together. Not that I'm cynical about why that's changed. Could I maybe ask a different question then? And has there been any communication to Services Australia by the Department of Social Services around any potential changes to compulsory income management?
Senator, we've been engaged with DSS on options and advice to be provided to the government, but we're not leading on that. So, again...
are you able to tell me when that advice was provided?
Oh, it's happening on an ongoing basis.
Okay, so this is still something that is under discussion?
Sure. Government consideration continues on it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I will ask the future-focused question to DSS. Maybe if I could just find out, Chair, whether that's the end of my 10 and I should start my next block on the next round? Or
I would go ahead, Senator Payne. I'm going to appeal to your sense of sympathy, and just note that we are running a little behind. If there were any questions you wanted to put on notice, that'd be great. Otherwise, please go ahead with what you need to ask.
I do have some processing questions that I can put on notice, but I just have a couple of others that I'd like to ask now, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
I have asked those ones. Thank you for your indulgence. Just want to make sure I come back to them. So these questions are in relation to the Strategic Commissioning Framework savings target. And I guess I'm after an explanation as to why Services Australia didn't reach its 2024 savings target.
Thank you, Senator. I've been joined at the table.
Thank you, Senator. Randall Brugeot, Chief Operating Officer. So as far as the target that had been set in 24-25 for the Strategic Commissioning Framework, the target was $9.4 million. We achieved $2.6 million in that financial year. A significant part of the reason for us only achieving just under 30% of our target is that we have been consistently transitioning contract and consultant resources into permanent staff within the consistently transitioning over contractors and consultants into permanent staff since 2019-20. So in 2019-20 we had 69% APS. In 24-25 the APS workforce constituted 84% of our workforce.
So does that mean that the savings target for 2025-26 will be more ambitious?
No, Senator. In fact, it will be the opposite.
Okay.
We have set a lower target for 25-26.
And what is that?
Our target is $613,192.
Okay.
Senator,
very precise.
If I may, one of the issues for us is that we got out of the blocks very quickly on the Strategic Commissioning Framework, and indeed since 2022, but including the period before the reporting started on the Strategic Commissioning Framework, we actually reduced our dependence on various forms of contractors, all the different categories, by about over 600 million. In other words, we made a huge structural shift, which is actually bigger than the whole of the rest of the public services 24 target. And so we're actually at a point now where our use of contractors and consultants and whatever may go up and down a little in any one particular year, depending, for example, we will still use ICT contractors, even though relative to...
Not the ones the bomb used, I hope.
Even though relative to almost every other agency, we have, depending on the year, between 60 and 70% of our ICT workforce is actually APS staff, which is very unusual. Nevertheless, when we have a bumper year of government change that we need to implement, we inevitably need to go out into the contractor workforce to bring in people on a temporary basis for temporary work, including very highly skilled people. So if we have a bumpy year of government change, it's inevitable that that part of our workforce will increase. But the commissioning framework reporting has been more recent. We'd already done a lot of, very significant structural change before.
So does that mean who's responsible for setting the target?
We are.
Okay. So I guess, did you just set it way too high for 2024-25?
It's more a function of that there are a lot of variables in play, which, like in 24-25, for example, it was a bumper year for ICT contractors because we had a bumper year of
Aged care reform,
change,
etc.
and that's not in the between 2 and 9 million.
Yep.
That's in the $450 million worth of change.
Yep.
And therefore, it's easy for us to get that slightly wrong at the margin, having made that a very big structural shift already. Now, naturally enough, we'd like to get closer to whatever target that we end up setting.
Just another question in relation to that. Have you reassessed what the agency considers core work since setting that 2024-25 target? And if so, have you made any changes around what you consider to be
We haven't
core?
adjusted what we would consider to be core work, no, Senator.
Okay. I have a question that I should have asked earlier and I've missed off my list, and then I'm just going to quickly run through some on notice, Chair, and then I'll be done. Just in relation to the $44,000 debts, I asked you how many had been repaid and you were able to tell me that, and I'm so sorry to have to ask you back just to ask the other question.
Thanks, Senator.
Thanks, Mr Birra. So I just want to double check. So as of very recently, 27th of November, 303 have been repaid. 111 of the 44,000 have been assessed as not needing to be repaid. So am I understanding that correctly then, that there's still 43,000 or more that need to be gone through to be repaid?
Yes, Senator, that's true. But what we've done is that we've done a phased approach to addressing these, and we've started with the high value potential overpayments to make sure that we've checked those so that people who are out of pocket the most are getting sort of quicker service from us. And that includes of the 2% of the 44,000 who have potential refunds of over $5,000, and then working our way down. I would note that of the 44,000, sorry, Senator, I was just going to add for context there, of the 44,000 potentially impacted people, our current analysis suggests that 22% of them are owed a refund of $1 or less, and another 28% between $1 and $50. And so particularly where someone's not a current recipient, and so we're having to ring them to say, we want to pay you less than $1 because we need to confirm their bank account because they're not a current recipient. So we're trying to work through the logistics and the processes of how we address those matters.
What do you expect that, I mean, obviously good that you're starting at the top, people who owe the most. What's the expected time frame, do you think, to work through the outstanding repayments?
Well, we're working through now and early into the new year to repay those higher payments. At the moment, what
percentage would they constitute, Mr Birra, of the total? The
higher payments, so over $500 is 19% of the 44,000.
Yep.
And then as I mentioned before, like 50% are under $50.
Yeah, and so roughly there's another 30 that are somewhere between 50 and...
There is. There's 31% between $51 and $500. And so it's working out a process which is scalable and sensible, given particularly the low value amounts for people who are not currently on payment. If people are on payment, that should be an easier process because we have their current contact details and bank accounts.
Are you aware of...
Oh, sorry, Senator. I was just going to add one small extra bit of context, which is that we estimate around 60% of the people who are potentially affected are not currently on payment. So we're sort of putting all of those together and trying to work out which ones we'll go first, and then we'll, partly from the experience of just doing the modest number that we've already done, we're then able to work out what's the plan. So I don't know that we have precise plan
No.
to get this to the end yet, but
Yes.
we will soon.
Okay. Are you aware of whether any of the people who are owed money in this cohort are deceased?
Yes, Senator, we do. Of the noting, of course, that if somebody is not currently on Centrelink,
Yeah.
there's not sort of a need for them to contact us. But based upon the information we have to date, currently around about 2,700 of those customers are deceased.
Okay. And is that money being refunded back to their estates, or that just gets absorbed back into the system?
No, we do attempt to contact estates and executors and beneficiaries, and that's a standard process where, like, because of the demographic, in particular, age pension recipients, we do have established processes for how to pay money that is owed to people's estates.
Okay, thank you. The questions that I'm going to ask on notice, got a little bit of a list, are wait times questions. So do you want me to just rattle them all off and then have them taken on notice? Is that
Or you can
what
just
you're asking me to do, Chair?
Yeah.
You're welcome to just table them, Senator, if you want to, and we'll take them on notice, or if you want to rattle them off.
Can I
that's
rattle
fine
them
too.
off?
Yeah, sure.
So I would like to know the latest average telephone support wait time for Services Australia, so the most current average across the board. What share of calls were answered in the last reported month? How many callers received congestion messaging in the last month? And in relation to claim wait times, how many payment claims across the board are currently yet to be assessed? The average number of days to process a claim with Services Australia across the board. The average time for processing a claim for the aged pension in the most recent month. The average time for a DSP claim in a recent month. And the average time for processing a child support claim in the recent month. And that is all I have, I think, Chair.
Thank you.
I'm just going to do a quick flick just to make sure, but I think I'm done.
And with that, we will thank you very much for your time and release Services Australia from the program. And we will ask the Future Fund Management Agency to come to the table. Easy. We might just suspend for a moment while we get the next agency to the table. Welcome. It's good to have you here. We have Dr. Arndt, the Chief Executive Officer, and other officers of the Future Fund Management Agency. Would you care to make an opening statement?
I would.
Please go right ahead.
Since we last appeared before the committee, we released our portfolio update for the period ending 30 September 2025, which showed we had reached a significant milestone, with the value added to the future fund since its inception passing $200 billion for the first time. Our annual report has been tabled since we last appeared and provides insight into the investment activity and operations of the organisation over the 24-25 year. What began in 2006 with an initial endowment of $60.5 billion has been carefully invested to now be worth $261 billion. The $200 billion in returns added for taxpayers reflects the work done at the Future Fund to understand the changes in investment markets. We continue to adjust the portfolio accordingly. Our 10-year return of 8.3% per annum exceeds the mandate target of 7% per annum, and our 12-month return of 13.7% exceeds the mandate target of 7.3%. Recent developments show we are continuing to move to a more multipolar world marked by geostrategic competition, national capability building and technological ambition. This is consistent with our new investment order thinking. In response, the board has increased the level of structural risk in the portfolio to improve long-term real returns. We've also continued to develop the resilience of the portfolio to a range of scenarios by increasing and diversifying our exposure to developed market currencies and commodities. Many of these changes added to portfolio returns during the year, contributing to the $33 billion of total returns generated across the 7 funds managed by the board. The value of the 6 other funds managed by the Future Fund Board of Guardians increased to $66.8 billion after providing almost $4 billion of withdrawals and distributions towards their intended programs. Total funds managed by the Future Fund Board of Guardians are now over $327.9 billion. I welcome your questions.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to Senator Pocock.
Yeah, thank you for your time on a Tuesday night. I wanted to ask about travel, given there's been some media coverage about your travel. It's fair to say that travel is important to enable the Future Fund to invest globally from Australia, Dr. Arndt?
Absolutely,
yeah. And according to your guidelines, travel must be for business purposes?
Of course.
Yeah. And international travel is business class? First class?
Yes.
Business class?
Yeah.
And you're a member of the Chairman's Lounge?
I am.
What are your guidelines around staff doing personal tourism while on Future Fund-funded business travel?
Within certain parameters, it's allowable, but has to be reported. Mm-hmm. So if people want to add a day on or a couple of days onto a trip, as long as it's not cumulative and excessive, we allow people to do that. It needs to be reported as part of the travel approval. They obviously have to pay for themselves any additional costs as part of that. If they're bringing a partner, staying in the same hotel, that has to be reported, and the same process applies. The approving manager has to assess that it's within agreed parameters.
Before the trip?
Before the trip.
Great.
And it needs to be, the work component needs to be more than half the trip, so FBT doesn't apply.
Sure. And I guess I recognise that the Future Fund is not just about investment outcomes, it's also about leadership, culture, the prudent management of the agency. And so wanted to ask about culture. Looking at your annual report, you have quite a low turnover rate, but if you look at senior investors, there seems to be quite a high turnover rate. I see Cameron Price retired, and each of Kimberly Reid, Ben Samald resigned or left the organisation last year, and neither of the latter two had worked for you for a particularly long time. In addition, the senior investors, David George, Sue Brake, Wendy Norris, Alicia Gregory. I'm keen to sort of get your take on this. If you were an investor looking at a Future Fund was a company. Would you be concerned about that sort of high turnover at a senior level?
I wouldn't describe it as high turnover, but obviously we're concerned about turnover of senior staff. That's unexpected or unplanned. I think in the case of Cameron Price that you raised, he was the General Counsel. That was a well-telegraphed retirement after more than 10 years with the organisation, so I wouldn't put that into that category. So the former Chief Investment Officer, Ben Samuel, that you named, he was in that job only about 2 years, but he was actually with us about 12, and he was promoted a number of times through his career with us, and decided to take a job in the Middle East, also as a senior investor. So I think there's a story for every one of those people. If we look at the turnover stats, they're set out in the annual report, but up until this year we had been reporting non-ongoing staff included in the turnover stats, which I think is probably a little misleading. So, for example, we had an intern program over the period and they finished and they were included in turnover. But if we take that out, the turnover this year is 5.8%, which I don't consider to be particularly high. But we do have periods from time to time of higher turnover or lower turnover, so it is something that we watch carefully.
Looking at your 2021 annual report, Richard Large, Paul Mann and Elizabeth McPherson concluded their terms as senior executives. Were those roles made redundant?
I think I would have to take that on notice.
Sure. With respect to Elizabeth McPherson, did you then contract her back to the agency to consult to you?
I'd have to take that on notice.
Okay. Was she contracted back through Human Chemistry, a contractor that she actually gave work to in her former role?
I mean, these things that you're talking about, if I understand correctly, are from about 5 or 6 years ago. So I'd have to.
Sure. Okay. I'll put these on notice then. We've had some discussions today about freedom of information, and was interested if, as CEO, you've transferred responsibility for FOI management and response from the legal risk and compliance team to corporate affairs.
Yes.
Why have you done that? You've moved FOI, which is a compliance-based function, to a PR function.
Well, it's not just a PR function. Corporate affairs does a wide range of things. My colleague's sitting next to me here today. The legal team is mostly made up of transaction and investment lawyers and a few people who work on organisational contracts and things, and it wasn't particularly good use of their time. The corporate affairs team's responsible for government relations in all its forms, including answering questions on notice and supporting our attendance here, so it seemed appropriate to sit with them.
How many on the team are involved in PR, sort of media and...
Senator Will Heatherton, Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, Future Fund Management Agency. It would depend on how you classify that, but we have one media-focused person.
Okay, thank you. And just coming back to travel, Dr. Arndt, did your former EA ever travel overseas?
Yes.
Yeah. Was that more than once?
Well, I can think of twice, but it may be more, but she supported a board trip, and she also went on a trip to assess hotels as to their suitability for our staff and support them, with one other person, the negotiation of rates with hotels to get better deals.
Mm-hmm. Does the Future Fund really need someone to go ahead and check out hotels? Like, was there a report done from that, or what was she checking? The firmness of beds or conference facilities? Like, I'm serious. Like, that seems like something that, you know, the Prime Minister would have, and you'd hope he had. But the Future Fund.
So, Senator, at least at that time, the centralised travel function in the government didn't negotiate rates internationally. They had negotiated rates for hotels domestically, and it was my view that we allowed every individual traveller through their EA or directly to get quotes and pick a hotel, and there was no coordination of that or bulk discount buying. So it was my view when I became the CEO that it would make sense to centralise that function and negotiate rates with hotels. The business case that was put up, which I've looked at recently so I recall it, was that the trip would cost about $20,000 and that the annual savings should be at least $30,000, and my understanding is we've realised more savings than that as a result of that project.
And you couldn't have just looked online and picked up the phone to these hotels?
Well, firstly it was straight after COVID, so
even more, everyone was online, everything was Zoom.
So the view was, one, we wanted to make sure we had the appropriate set up for hotels, including whether they were in safe places within cities, and secondly, that the relationship with the hotel managers would help with the negotiation of rates, and that's what transpired.
Okay. I mean, I know you're managing a lot of money, but this just seems like it's bordering on, like if you ask the average punter out there whether the future fund needed to send someone, I assume business class.
Business class.
Yeah, to go and check out some hotels, they'd probably say, yeah, nah. But in terms of yourself, have you ever included personal sort of travel as part of future fund paid for trips?
Yeah, from time to time I would take a day of leave alongside a trip.
And you'll cover the expenses for your outings on those days?
Yes.
And you'll cover hotel for the...
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And in terms of the process around disclosure or getting the checks and balances, would that have been to Peter Costello and Greg Combe? Who would you sort of check?
No,
with?
my travel's approved by the General Counsel.
Okay. And in terms of sort of recreational activities on travel, have you ever been to Club 33, the exclusive Disney club venue?
Not as a recreational activity, no.
No? What was it for?
On one of the trips we did when we were looking at setting up a learning academy for the Future Fund Academy, which teaches culture, one of the peer groups that we identified in the study was Disney and the Disney University, because they do cultural induction for their teams in a way that seems quite effective. And so we organised for some meetings with a person who was involved in that activity, and had a tour of the facility, which included lunch at the location that you're referring to.
And Disney covered that, or the taxpayer covered that?
I'd have to take that on notice.
Maybe I'll notice if you can just
And Senator Pocock,
check.
we're heading towards the rotation point. Is that okay? Yep.
Sure.
Senator Dunniam.
Pass.
Thanks, Chair. I didn't really expect to ask questions in this committee, but I'm delighted to be able to do so.
Delighted to be here, yes.
I certainly am. So I just wanted to ask, with regard to a vacancy, as I understand it, that's been occupied by someone in an acting role, and that was the vacancy created by Mr. Ben Samild, who left in September of this year, and Mr. Hugh Murray, has been acting in the role. Where are we up to with finding a replacement for that position?
We've been working through the public service process, so we've appointed a panel. The panel's been signed off because at the SES level we need that to happen. We're just finalising the search strategy at the moment.
Okay, and so your sort of projected timeframe on the replacement process,
I'd be hoping to have interviews for preferred candidates in the first few months of next year, but as to when they start would depend on whether they're in a job and notice periods and so forth.
No problems. Okay. And so is the process going to be one that's done through some sort of open advertising process, like the normal process that's engaged in for positions of this level?
Yeah, I mean, we'll follow the process, including advertising the role on the Gazette and so on.
Okay. So we haven't had any interviews yet, or
No.
a short listing of names, or names being provided to you or anyone else that might be near the decision-making process?
No.
Okay. All right. That's all my questions done. Thank you, Chair.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for coming and spending some quality time with us. Sorry for having kept you a little bit later than anticipated, but we do appreciate your time. We will now release you from the program and ask for the Digital Transformation Agency to come to the table. We'll catch it up. We'll get there. We need 2 doors. We need 2 doors. One in, one out. Welcome, Mr. Chris Fettner, the Chief Executive Officer, and the other officers of the Digital Transformation Agency. It's nice to have you with us. Do you have an opening statement that you'd like to share?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, just directly to questions?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent. We'll go to Senator Chandler.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, everyone, for appearing this evening. I have a few quite technical questions that I'm hoping DTA might be able to walk me through, and then some sort of broader policy-based ones. But the first is, obviously DTA has responsibility for managing panels of suppliers across government in some areas, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Could you tell me what panel DTA ICT 40233 related to?
Chris Fettner, Chief Executive of the Digital Transformation Agency. The exact, you're talking about a contract there rather than an awarded contract? I may be. What do, sorry, I shouldn't say what do you think I'm referring to. Sorry, does that number signify that it's one and not the other, Mr Fettner? It would largely indicate to me that it's a contract that's been put. It may have come through one of our panels, so there may be an extension to it.
Right.
But we have several, tens of thousands of contracts that go through these ones, so the individual one is probably something I can take on notice.
Sure. I guess I probably assume, looking at this particular contractor that is talking about receiving, or has spoken about publicly being an approved contractor under this DTA ICT 40233, I assume that it was probably a panel arrangement.
So, Senator, we've just looked it up by ICT.
Wonderful, thank you.
It is the hardware market panel.
Can you talk to me about that hardware market panel?
Yes, the hardware market panel is used for the purchase of and acquisition of infrastructure, desktops, servers, equipment of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the panels that are required to be used to actually acquire infrastructure and hardware for the APS in our areas.
Yeah. So is DTA ICT 40233, is that still a current panel? If a contractor said that they were selected under that panel, would it be fair to say they're still a contractor?
So we open and close the marketplaces periodically. The hardware marketplace is actually closed at the moment, so anybody who has been awarded on that contract would still be on it.
Sure. Even if it's not, I did have a bit of a Google to get to this point. So there are other releases of that hardware market panel.
So we have 6 marketplaces that sit outside of that.
Yeah.
And then we have these single seller arrangements.
Yes, and then periodically you will reopen a panel, probably under a different code name, to get more suppliers onto that.
Yes, they'll have a different reference. So we open and close those panels to allow the marketplace to refresh. So they're open with relative frequency. So hardware changes less frequently than, say, professional services.
Yes.
So they can sort of be a longer term between them.
Sure.
But we seek to keep them open frequently.
And so once a contractor is on that panel, you're effectively saying to the rest of government, this is a good contractor, please
so they are
obtain goods and services through them, suppliers.
Not contractors, yes. But so we require all participants in our marketplace to sign up to standardised terms and agreements, and that includes things like their statement of tax compliance, agreeing to ethical conduct, making sure that they meet all the liability clauses associated with government contracts. So we check them for being suppliers in good standing before we allow them to be on our panel, and then we maintain a review of those panels over time. So if there's a change in circumstance under our panels, they're required to report those changes in circumstances to us.
The suppliers in good standing, is that just your turn of phrase, Mr Fechner, or does that actually...
That's a generalised term, but we have obligations that they must sign up to, so they have minimum obligations that all panel participants must sign up to. They do vary a little bit between the contracts, but things like their financial viability, their ethical performance, and their obligations and liabilities are all mandatory requirements.
Ethical performance, could you tell me what that means?
So under the CPRs, we follow the directions from the Department of Finance on that suppliers sign up to act ethically in the delivery of their products and services to the Commonwealth. And if they act unethically, or if there's reason to a change in circumstances, they're required to report that to us, and it is a means that we can terminate their participation in those environments.
Okay, sure. Do you only seek advice from the Department of Finance in relation to any potential breaches of ethical performance?
No. So our contracts, so we follow the CPRs, where the CPRs call out that we need to have ethical performance requirements in our contracts. But we actually maintain all of the obligations associated with the disclosures to the DTA as the contracting authority, and all of the vendors are obliged to report to us anything that would be material in any of those circumstances, whether it's their insurances, whether it's their any legal proceedings, whether it's a change in their financial circumstance. They're all required to be reported to us.
What if there were any national security concerns in relation to one of your suppliers on one of these panels?
So national security concerns would be referred to us by other departments, generally the Department of Home Affairs. But anything of that particular circumstance, there would be obligations as well.
What sort of obligations?
So, for instance, if there was requirements, and there have been requirements about software development needing to meet certain international agreements, we need to actually ensure that those are afforded into our environment as well.
Okay. So it would be, your understanding is that it would be up to the Department of Home Affairs to identify these concerns? So
Home Affairs would be one.
What other departments do you
potentially think? Attorney Generals. We might get advice from people like ASD. And the Department of Finance could be in there. Department of Defence would often be able to provide insights into those particular things.
Defence would be able to. And so these departments raise a concern with you. Do you automatically strike vendors off the list?
So if we had a report from Home Affairs, we would definitely investigate. We would understand the circumstances by which we've been provided. I mean, the Department of Home Affairs will put out directions such as the PSPF directions around the use of generative AI, where they put out the requirement not to use the web-enabled version of DeepSeek, for instance. and we would then make sure that within our environments that was an excluded product from our marketplaces.
What about when a contractor is going onto the panel initially? So if you had a new contractor apply to or tender to go on one of your panels, whatever the technical term is, are you expected to do due diligence on any national security concerns around that provider, any potential links to foreign entities around that provider that would be of concern?
So we take advice, Treasury has the foreign investment review functions. We would take advice from them. There are things that happen, collaborations that go across government. And Home Affairs is the principal one around those domestic security activities, but there is technical advice that we would also take from ASD and the Australian Cyber Security Centre. Just in fully answering your question, all participants in all of our marketplaces all go through a pre-vetting, and all of the header conditions must be met before they're actually able to contract with any other government agency. So being on our panel does not give them direct work. It says that they've met all the pre-qualification conditions and we have an understanding of their products and their value for money, but then agencies will go to our marketplaces and use one or more of those standing arrangements to then seek what their particular product or service is.
And so, again, from your perspective, if there is a vendor on one of your panels that looks a little shonky, you are reliant on some of those departments that we've just listed, or indeed a department that is seeking to contract with one of those vendors to raise a concern and come to you and say, we've got a problem here, and then you would look into it.
So we've got two aspects. We've got obligations that they must report if there are any conditions. When you say they, do you mean your vendors or the departments? All the vendors on the marketplace. Yeah. So, for instance, if they had been banned from providing services to another government agency, for instance, they would be obliged under the contracts to actually notify us of those. And if they don't, they'd be in breach of those header arrangements. If there were significant aspects of things like cybersecurity, you may remember Kaspersky Internet services. It was one that Home Affairs deemed was inappropriate for us to use, and it was excluded from our marketplace. We actually had one or two agencies that were using that product, and we required them to stop using that product.
Sure. I guess what I'm trying to get at here is, and I recognise that this may be somewhat hypothetical, but to avoid this happening when we all go to other departments and ask about, various contracts that are in place, are you comfortable that there is a clear understanding across government that it's not your role to do the national security type vetting over vendors that might be on your panels?
Yeah, so clearly the DTA is not in the national security space. We take advice from agencies that are, but we are not in the national security space.
Sure.
It is not one of our responsibilities.
Okay, I think that's useful background for me. Thank you very much. If I can keep going just for a little while, Chair, thank you. I do have a few other questions on cybersecurity and the digital transformation agenda that DTA is pursuing. That's probably still all of the same witnesses that we have up here at the table. What are you doing in terms of integrating cybersecurity across your...
So the DTA has a supporting role in the delivery of cybersecurity capabilities within government. So we work closely with the Department of Home Affairs. So when there are proposals that have a cyber component to them, the DTA manages the input of all those, and then we use the Department of Home Affairs to explicitly evaluate the value that that investment would make in terms of cyber. We routinely work with the Department of Home Affairs and the Australian Signals Directorate to incorporate technical specifications into our areas. We also work in conjunction with the Department of Home Affairs on things like the data and digital government strategy, where there is cyber uplift components that sit inside of that plan. We work very closely with all of those areas to look at. There is a fairly strong connection between cyber and digital because the medium is the same. It's the connection to the outside. So many things like zero trust implementations of new applications of software are actually development activities inside of government. So the DTA works on how we help support the implementation of those particular standards that create safer software for use inside of government, that also work in our marketplaces. So if there are obligations on providers, especially with things like third-party supplier functions, we incorporate them into our contracts as well. But directly, the DTA is not a cyber security agency either. We're a supporting agency.
Do you have any plans to evolve this current strategy to address AI-driven cyber risks?
Absolutely. We work closely with many different agencies and international jurisdictions, the industry as well as academia. We believe that cybersecurity has got exacerbated threats through the use of artificial intelligence, both in offensive and defensive applications. And the scale at which AI can deploy these means that the timing for the vulnerabilities that are potentially available and the opportunity to go much further across government are significantly higher than they were several years ago.
I note that we have the Government Services Minister at the table, and I know Services Australia has already been on here this evening, but obviously there's been a massive increase in the amount of scamming activity that is going on in relation to MyGov, Services Australia, associated platforms. Does the DTA have a role to play here and in monitoring these issues, providing advice to government around how to better deal with them?
Yes, we do. So, for instance, we sit on the Services Australia Architectural Review Board, where they're looking at their platforms and services. We've reviewed Services Australia's proposals for cyber uplift, and we supported those proposals. We work very closely with Services Australia on things like the implementation of strengthening components like the passkeys that Services Australia put in last year, the strengthening of the connections of digital identity to remove those backdoor entries between MyGov and other government services. There's a very, very high degree of coordination right across government on the digital estate work that needs to be updated every single year just to keep pace with the evolving threats.
Okay, sorry, I'm just looking through what I needed to ask about, and I think that is probably it. Just sorry, back on the panel arrangements, would you ever consult with DFAT about any concerns in relation to a panellist?
So I would say it's much more likely to be Treasury in foreign investments. So DFAT and Home Affairs potentially would talk a lot, and we would probably get the information from there. We have relationships with DFAT in that space, but it's not something that. So they have a role in international cyber. We are completely domestic in the DTA.
Sorry, completely domestic in the DTA. What do you mean by that?
It means that our role is making sure that the services work well in Australia. So DFAT, for instance, will go to Pacific Islands and support them with cyber uplift capabilities. That's not a function that the DTA does.
But what if you said you'd engage with Treasury if there were a FIRB issue, but that's only going to raise a red flag if you're dealing with a foreign business that might be seeking to do to be on one of your panels. What if it's ownership arrangements of a, on paper, locally based company?
So I think 4 years ago the DTA established the hosting certification framework, which is looking at foreign ownership and control. that function now sits with the Department of Home Affairs. So the mechanism behind the hosting certification framework is it looks at opportunities for foreign entities to influence outcomes that are associated with government. So membership of boards, security clearances, non-Australian certified personnel, foreign locations, all of those are actually criteria that are questioned, and we have 2 levels of certification in there depending on the workloads that are going in there. So we have certified strategic and we have assured. And those 2 levels represent a safety net to make sure that foreign entities who may not work well in our technology environment or may look to penetrate our technology environment have got restrictions placed upon them. So under our deeds, for instance, we can actually require providers to pay for the transition of Commonwealth entities outside of those services into another one if they break the rules of the deed.
Ms Paul, do you have the details for the approved contractors under 40233 that we were talking about before?
So Lucy Paul, Deputy CEO. Let me just bring that back up for you, Senator.
Can I just make one point on that? That these are standing panel arrangements. There are often hundreds of suppliers in there, and if you look at our other marketplaces, there are thousands of suppliers. So maybe we could provide that list to you on notice rather than talking through it here.
If Ms Paul's got it there, I would like to know.
How many people did you say was on it?
There'll be hundreds in the marketplace.
I assume you're not anticipating that she's going to read them all out.
No, definitely not. But this was a specific intake into the marketplace that I'm interested to know.
If there is a specific panellist on there, we can give you details on that.
Pioneer Computers?
Pioneer Computers. So we can look it up and see that it should be in the marketplace. If you'd like, we can sort of get that done and maybe go on with other questions. And then we can give you that answer if that would be okay in this session.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, look, I really want the answer to this one, but I'm happy to move the call on if that would...
No, we're just waiting for you to finish.
It's just me,
it's just
okay.
You.
Actually, I do have a question.
Senator Sharma
Excellent.
should ask
Senator
some questions
Sharma.
then. Thank you.
Over to you.
Thanks, Senator Chandler. Thank you, Chair. Just had some questions about external consultants. So I understand that the DTA's IGB fact sheet, as released under FOI, notes that DTA will work closely with the APSC to uplift digital capabilities across the public service to replace an apparent over-reliance on external capability. What work is the DTA currently undertaking with government agencies in relation to digital capability uplift?
So the government has recently released our data, digital and cyber workforce plan. So that's been done in conjunction with the Australian Public Service Commission, and it's looking at how we materially uplift the capabilities of public servants in the professional streams across data, digital and cyber. In my role in the DTA, I'm also head of the digital profession, and the digital profession has a mission to make sure that there is connectivity and development of public servants. We also use our investment oversight framework to look at the required or emerging capabilities that are required in future projects, so that instead of going to the market to get those resources, we're able to leverage the lead time that we have while the investment's being considered to look at uplifting capability. And the fourth area is we use our contracts, especially our whole of government contracts, to actually leverage training capabilities to uplift the skills. So, for instance, our Microsoft and Amazon contracts all have specific training capabilities to give Australian public servants certifications in those frameworks. We've been doing work on the extent of the shortfall of Australian public servants in roles, so roles that we're not able to fill. And we're working across agencies to develop programs. I think there is 10 of 12 programs in our workforce plan that are currently active, and many of those are about making sure that we've got the right skills so that we can in-source our critical capabilities while leveraging the market more for those extended capabilities or those occasionally used capabilities.
I noticed, thank you, in the same fact sheet, it's flagged as a risk that a reduction in contractor and consultant support prior to building internal capability will interrupt delivery of core government services. Is the DTA aware of any specific risks there, and so will this internal capability be built before a reduction in contractor and consultant support?
Digital capabilities that are required in government change very frequently. So as new technologies come on, we need new skills. It's not one of those areas that you can actually say, we've done it, we've got the right number now, because things move on. Digital areas also have reasonably high attrition rates because there is a high degree of demand in the market. So it means that there is a bit more shopping for staff that go in there. What we're doing at the moment is making sure that we're identifying those areas of key capability that we need to make sure that we in-house. So those things that we believe are essential. Those solutions, such as MyGov, that we can actually make sure that we've got the internal capabilities to resource those rather than relying on the external market. So materially right now, there are several thousand jobs in the APS that are unfilled, and that number does not change from year to year because of the high demand for it. And that's no different to the private sector, and that's no different to the global position. Digital roles and the government's own projections say we're about 300,000 short in the economy as it stands right now. But it's also an area where the onboarding of those resources takes time.
So are those roles that are unfilled at the moment, are those roles being performed by external consultants currently?
In some cases, yes.
Okay.
And in some cases, they're short-term temporary assignments as well.
Okay, I guess what I'm trying to understand, are there going to be cuts to external consultants that will interrupt, before this capability is in-house, that will interrupt the delivery of government services, the risk that you foreshadowed in your fact sheet?
So there will always be a requirement for professional services and contractors to augment or take on capabilities that the government no longer wants to do. And there will always be some shortfall between those two numbers, the demand and the supply in those cases. The government is working really hard to make sure that we minimise the risk associated with those shortfalls.
Okay.
But that is no different to any government anywhere on the planet at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Mr Vetcher. That was all from me, Chair.
And Senator Chandler, before you go again, I'm just going to remind everyone that we are running somewhat behind.
Yeah, I'm not going again.
Thank you.
So, Senator, just going back to your question, we don't have anyone listed on our marketplace under that name.
Okay, thank you.
Were you done?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it. We will release you from the program and ask the ASC to come to the table.
Who are we going to on your side? Hello.
Welcome.
Well, I don't think you'll thank people enough.
Okay, I would like to welcome the ASC and Mr Stuart Wiley, Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director, and other officers alongside you. Would you care to make an opening statement?
No, Chair.
No? Straight into the
Chair.
pithy questions.
Yeah, that's right, Chair.
All right, let's go. Senator Collins.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Thank you for your attendance tonight. I just wanted to ask about the new Defence Delivery Agency, please.
That's the question for Defence.
Okay, but would like to know from you when you first learned about it.
On the news yesterday.
On the news yesterday. Were you consulted on the design of the
DDA, given the close linkages between your organisation and parts of the defence that will be involved?
No.
No. So, what has been your experience of dealing with defence? Do you agree that with the minister, that the people in these teams of defence lack?
Well, those are questions for defence, not for me. So.
Defence is a customer of ASC.
Pardon?
Essentially, the relationship between ASC and ASC provides services and work for defence. So
yes.
I'm not sure that they're in a position to.
But it might change the relationship and how you operate with defence, correct?
I don't think so. We'll still, as far as I understand it, we'll still be operating under a contract arrangement, so it'll still be business as usual from our perspective.
Yep. So the Defence Delivery Agency will be housed in the department, so it's not going to change anything on the day-to-day level with how you engage with defence.
No, we don't anticipate that.
So given the Minister has said the same people in these teams would staff the new agency, would this, in your experience as an entity engaging with defence on a daily basis, change at all?
Look, are you asking me to speculate on a change that's yet to happen, Senator?
Well, it's going to be a big change, and I'm just wondering whether you're prepared, whether you've been consulted on the change, whether you foresee any difference to the engagement.
I wonder if Mr. Wiley would step out the relationship. I'm not sure you're quite grasping the relationship, and I think it'll help you with your questioning if you just step out the relationship that you have with defence. They're not essentially a part of defence.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that they're part of defence. You're a client of defence, but I'm just asking whether it's going to change your relationship at all or your engagements with them.
The detail of how that relation then engages us is yet to be determined from our perspective. It's just at the moment we've seen basically the press release, and that's all I can talk about at this point in time.
Okay, so you're not aware of which projects or initiatives will be affected by
I have no
change?
details at all, Senator.
No? Okay. That's it from me. Thank you very much.
Senator Sharma, do you have any questions?
Look, I might, if that's all right.
Please do.
Just on a day-to-day basis, and just if you wouldn't mind humouring me here, Mr. Wiley, is your point of engagement with defence with CASG or, now I don't know how to say this acronym, GWEO? You probably know what that means, GWEO, or the Naval Shipbuilding and Sustainment Group. What's the normal?
This is Naval Shipbuilding and Sustainment Group.
Okay. That's your day-to-day.
Yeah, and that's for the Collins-related work and some of the sustainment-related work to Virginia. As it relates to SN-AUKUS work, that's primarily through ASA, Senator.
Through ASA, okay.
Yeah.
So does that mean, because ASA is not part of this new reorganisation, is it?
Not that I'm aware of, no, Senator.
No, okay. So you expect your relationship with ASA in the context of AUKUS is not going to change as a result of this?
That's correct.
Okay. But your connection with the Naval Shipbuilding and Sustainment Group in connection with, this is the Collins life of type extension?
It's probably all Collins-related work and some sustainment-related work for Virginia, Senator.
Oh, for the Virginia class as well? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Have you had any communication with the Naval Shipbuilding and Sustainment Group since this announcement?
No.
Okay. They haven't sent you any communication? I've
had a meeting request put on my calendar for later in the week for a briefing on data, some of the details that's behind this.
Okay. And I understand that, or is your understanding rather, that the personnel are going to change, or is it just the name and the title on the org chart that will change?
I have no idea the details.
It's a matter for defence.
Yeah.
It really is. It's not a matter for ASC. Don't feel that you need to soldier on, Senator Sharma.
It is
We've
late.
just seen that Legal and Con is finished. RAT is finished.
That's a benchmark.
You know, like we're seeing them all go down.
None of your colleagues are going to judge you.
They've already left the building.
Last question then, but we do have questions for the other agencies. Do you expect this will have an impact on the time frame for the arrival of the Virginia subs?
I have no idea to answer that question. Really, I've no
understanding of the detail already, and really it's the questions for Defence, not for ASC.
Okay. And you haven't had any communication from the Minister's office? You said you'd had one communication from the...
I said I've got some communications from the head of CASG and NSSG and what have you. They're providing a briefing later in the week, which I'm diving into.
I see. Okay. And is that briefing just for you?
No, I suspect it'll be a number of other... I can't see who's on the invite, but I suspect it'll be a number of other industry agencies and what have you.
Okay.
I expect.
And have you had explained to you the intent or the purpose of the reform, or just what you've read in the media?
I only know what's in the paper, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Wiley. You've been most cooperative.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Sharma.
Thank you, and I don't know what else to say. But thank you for hanging around.
Just before Mr. Wiley goes, this is his last appearance at Senate Estimates. He's been a very, repeat attendee here, but I have acknowledged privately and in other meetings, but I'd just like to put on the record my appreciation, and I think the government's appreciation for his service in this important role that he has played, and a very, very difficult role. So thank you, and all the best for your future.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mr. Wiley.
Right.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Tea break, plough on. What are we feeling? We are going to plough on.
Yeah. Let's soldier on.
Let's soldier on. Let's do this.
Can I just get a cup of tea while we soldier on?
Yes.
Hello.
Please do.
Oh, thank you.
We'll take a couple of moments for a comfort break. We'll suspend for a couple of moments. Just get a cup of tea and let's plough on back. Thank you very much for joining us. I welcome Mr Andrew Seaton, the Chief Executive Officer, Managing Director and other officers of the Australian Naval Infrastructure Limited. Would you care to make an opening statement?
No, I won't.
Okay, we will go directly to questions. Senator Sharma.
Thank you, Mr. Seaton, and welcome, and thanks for your patience this evening. The Australian Naval Infrastructure, so you do Osborne Shipyard, and what's your other major project?
No,
and
not Henderson. No, we do Osborne Shipyard, and that's really our remit.
Are you going to be doing Henderson? Is that something that the Minister just foreshadowed?
Subject to future government decisions.
This is, so you don't have anything to do with it?
Sorry, that was ASC, yeah.
Okay.
I was just at Henderson and I mixed up ANI and ASC.
So was I one a few weeks ago. It was quite interesting.
I just thought I saw you at Perth.
Okay, and then so you're doing the Osborne Naval Shipyard, and that includes for the construction of the AUKUS submarine, is that
That's right. So we're effectively the owner, developer, landlord of the Osborne Naval Shipyard. So our tenants are BAE for the Hunter-class frigate program, ASC for the Collins-class sustainment, and we're working very closely with the ASA to develop the nuclear-powered submarine construction yard.
With the ASA, okay.
That's right.
And what's the time frame for that?
We've started early works already, and we're deep into design, so that the yard will be progressively developed over the next 10 to 12 years.
So when the expected completion is in 10 to 12 years?
That's right.
Okay. And then it could begin functioning, begin building?
No, it'll begin functioning a lot sooner than that. So we'll be progressively handing over facilities from next year.
To ASA?
To the shipbuilder, which is the BAE ASC joint venture.
Right, okay. When did you first learn about the proposed new Defence Delivery Agency that was announced?
When it was announced.
Was that this morning?
Yesterday.
Yesterday morning. The time passes strangely here. And have you had any communication from the Minister, the Minister's office, the department since that announcement?
Similar to Mr Wiley, I've been invited to an industry briefing later in the week.
Okay. Who's holding that briefing?
So the briefing will be fronted by the three heads of the departments that are forming the new agency.
So that's what, CASG?
CASG, NSSG and the guided weapons, GUIO.
GUIO, that's how you say it, okay, all right. And which part of those entities is your normal point of contact at
So our relationship
ANI?
with Defence is NSSG are our joint shareholder department together with the Department of Finance, and also I guess NSSG are indirectly our customer. Our tenants are BAE and ASC, but their programs are dependent on NSSG.
Okay. So is it your expectation that after this your customer will be DDA and that DDA will be the shareholder?
As I said, our customers really are the primes who are using our shipyard, who are...
then who's your client? Is that the NSSG?
No, so the NSSG is our shareholder.
Yes.
Together with the finance minister.
Mm-hmm.
So the Deputy Prime Minister, the Minister for Defence, is a joint shareholder with the Minister for Finance. But the shareholder department function is filled by NSSG together with the Department of Finance. So that's from a governance and shareholding perspective. And then from the perspective of the manner in which we develop the shipyard to support the prime contractors, again, our relationship is with NSSG. For the nuclear powered submarine yard, that relationship is with the ASA.
Do you anticipate this change will have any impact on the timeframe for delivery of the nuclear powered submarine shipyard?
No, there's no connection at all.
Okay. Do you have any expectation or concern that any projects will be impacted by this change?
No, we've had a long and constructive relationship with the Department of Defence, and I expect that to continue.
Do you expect your counterparts that you deal with at Defence to be the same people?
It's very early days with the announcement. As I said, I'll be briefed later in the week. So I don't really know any more detail at this stage.
And just to confirm, the first you learnt of this was when the announcement was made yesterday?
That's right.
You weren't consulted on it prior, on
No.
the design elements or
No.
anything else? Well, thank you. I think that's all I have for A&I.
Thank you.
Unless
Thank you.
colleagues have any questions? Senator Collins? No?
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seaton. Really appreciate
Thanks
it.
very
And
much.
your colleagues, we will release you
Process of government.
and we will see if we can find CEA Technologies. Thank you very much. We might suspend for a moment while we...
Yeah.
To CEA Technologies, and I welcome Ms Jocelyn Morton, who's the Chair and Interim Chief, I believe.
That's right.
Would you like to make an opening statement?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I would like to, seeing this is the very first time we've appeared, I think it would be appropriate for me to give an opening statement.
I think that's right. You've been waiting for, 18 months to have this opportunity?
No, we only became a GBE on in March of this year.
Yes, but it was an 18-month lead-up.
Yes, but I wasn't there during that time, so
right.
I'm nice and fresh.
Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Chair, committee members, I'm Jocelyn Morton, Chair and Interim CEO of CEA Technologies. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an opening statement. CEA Technologies is a proud Australian company that has grown into a world-leading designer and manufacturer of advanced radar systems and technologies. For more than 42 years, CEA has supported the Australian Defence Force with groundbreaking, active electronically scanned array technology that strengthens our sovereign capability and supports our national defence priorities. At the heart of CEA's technology is a highly modular system that operates across the radio frequency spectrum, built on common building blocks and enabled by flexible software. Unlike traditional radars, our radars can be tailored to multiple applications, adapt to dynamic operating environments in the sea, land and air domains. This is only possible with ongoing research and development that continuously feeds into the life cycle of our advanced technology. The past 2 years have been a period of significant transformation for CEA. In recognition of our long-standing partnership with the Commonwealth, the Australian Government acquired a non-controlling share of the company in July 2023, marking the beginning of a structured transition. In January of 2025, the Commonwealth became the major shareholder, and on 15 March 2025, CEA was officially prescribed a government business enterprise. Throughout this process, we have taken a meticulous and strategic approach to preserve the 42 years of commercial success, technological excellence and innovative culture that defines our company. As a Commonwealth company, CEA operates under the governance of two shareholder ministers, the Minister for Finance and the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Defence, alongside co-founder and Executive Director, Mr Ian Croser AM. A recruitment process is currently underway for the Chief Executive Officer who will lead CEA through its next chapter and strengthen our contribution to Australia's national security. The Board has agreed that I assume the responsibilities of Interim CEO, supported by my directors, Mr Paul Simon and Mr Merv Davis, for when I'm not available. Our leadership remains focused on delivering for defence, supported by our workforce and maintaining the high standards that underpin our reputation. In closing, I acknowledge the sensitive nature of our technological solutions, which provide critical capabilities for our military operations. This naturally places limitations on the level of detail I can share publicly, but about our technology and about our business operations. However, I will endeavour to provide as much information as possible to assist the committee in its inquiries. And I thank the Chair and the committee for their time.
Thank you, Ms Morgan. We will go to questions. Senator Sharma.
I do have some questions. Thank you, Ms Morden. So, Ms Morden, you're the Chair and the Interim CEO, is that right?
That's right.
And so at what stage is the recruitment process at then for...
Very well advanced. Very well advanced. We'll be commencing interviewing this week, actually, and then continuing on the process for second interviews, etc. We hope to be able to have a candidate to refer to the ministers in the new year.
And who was the CEO previously?
Mark Foster.
And when did he step down?
On the 31st of July.
Of this year?
Of this year.
Okay. And in your opening statement, you just mentioned your two major shareholders being the Minister for Finance and the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Defence.
Yes.
And then you said alongside the co-founder and Executive Director, Mr Ian Croser. Does he still have an ownership stake in the business?
Yes, he does. The Commonwealth has 71.8 shares and Mr Croser has the balance, so 28.
So there's 100 shares?
28% he still owns.
Right, okay. And what was the corporate status of the company before it was acquired by the Commonwealth? Was it a private company?
It was a private company.
Okay. And when what sum did the Commonwealth pay for it? Is that available, publicly available information
to Department of Finance
to take a 71% stake?
Just see what we can provide.
So on the 28th of July, so David Webster, First Assistant Secretary, Commercial Group, stage acquisition of CA reached financial close, cumulative total of $364,826,712 was paid for two pieces, $235,224,301.40 to acquire a 49 direct shareholding in CEA. That was the first phase of the transaction, and $109,602,410.60 to acquire convertible notes in an intermediate holding company. And the convertible notes subsequently
converted into shareholding. Okay. So the total outlay was $364 million.
Yes.
Okay. And why was the decision, I'm just curious here, why was the decision taken to acquire the company? I presume you were previously providing services as a contractor to the Department of Defence and Government. What was the government's decision, the rationale for the decision to acquire the company?
Well, I think it was in consultation with Mr Croser, and due to the nature of the business the company performed.
World-leading radar systems.
So it's really about a national interest.
No, but I'm just curious because there's a lot of, obviously, defence contractors that
Well, I think
produce...
Mr. Crozer wanted the company in good hands, and obviously had been there, since its beginning, and was considering, this next steps for himself as part of that. So there had been, discussions. There was a lot of, obviously, proper process, probity, all of those issues that went into looking at how you would engage in such a business transaction and what the right model might be, and all of that. It was over a reasonably extended period of time, probably dating back to
2023.
2023, yeah.
And how did the Commonwealth value the business? Who conducted the valuation and how did you determine it?
Come back to you to confirm, but I'm pretty sure it was a standard DCF financial modelling of the future projected cash flows.
On a particular multiple, like a defence industry multiple, or?
So a DCF is a discount rate of future cash flows rather than a multiple of EBITDA. So yes, it would have been a worked up financial model supported by some independent advice around what appropriate discount rate would be.
Okay. Would you mind providing
check that on notice.
Providing that on notice? And is the intent to leave Mr. Crozer with his 28.2% share? Is he able to sell that to a third party? What are the...
No, that automatically comes to the Commonwealth on a number of trigger events.
So we have the option on it basically to go to 100% based on those, trigger events, essentially.
Can I just ask a rather morbid question? What happens when Mr. Crozer passes? Is that a trigger event?
Yes.
It is?
Yes, it is.
And the Commonwealth gets the sort of first right of refusal? Is that...
Yes, that's correct.
That's the structure. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or if
or if he chooses.
He makes another decision, not to be,
Yeah, of course, but it's the Commonwealth who has the first option on when okay, it doesn't automatically pass to his heirs as part of his estate or anything.
No, it goes to the Commonwealth. It goes to the Commonwealth.
Okay. Does the Commonwealth own any other, government business enterprises of this nature?
Not a GBE as such, but it does have a stake in Marinus Link.
In Marinus Link, the interconnector?
Not 100% ownership.
Well, not 100% ownership, but also, I guess, a
private company that
had been a contractor to the...
It's a very particular set of circumstances, the technology it provides and the national interest we have in protecting that. So I can't think of another example where we would be, in that situation.
Yeah, I was going to ask, are there any other companies that might potentially be candidates for this? Sure, they'd be thrilled to hear it if that's the case. It's a great exit.
Maybe we wouldn't mention them now.
A great exit if they can get it.
Yeah.
No, there's no other in the defence supply chain, or...
I don't think it's a question we've turned our mind to.
But you haven't had like Drone Shield or Advanced Navigation or any of these other companies that supply to defence and sell to defence knocking on your door saying, take a stake? No.
Not that I'm aware of, Senator, no.
Okay. Turning now to my earlier line of questioning about to previous agencies anyway, about the proposed new Defence Delivery Agency. Ms Morton, when did you first hear about the creation of this Defence Delivery Agency?
When the announcement was made.
And you heard about it from the media?
From the media.
Okay. Have you had any communication from the Minister, the Minister's Office, the Department of Defence?
No, other than the public announcement, but I similarly have been invited to the briefing that will be provided by the DepSec CASG, which is this Thursday.
Okay. And who is your normal counterpart or the sort of point of contact for, what do you call it, a customer relationship or a client relationship within the Department of Defence? Is it CASG? Is it?
It's primarily CASG.
Primarily CASG. And do you anticipate that your point of contact there will change as a result of this creation of a new agency?
Senator, I have no briefing on that matter at all. we don't have any information that I can supply you with in relation to that.
Have you had any other communication with CASG since this announcement, other than
No, I have not.
Just the invitation to
the invitation to
the briefing on Thursday. What could I just ask? How has the purpose of the briefing been described?
Just to give us further information
about
the changes.
How long has been scheduled for that briefing?
The invitation came out, I think it might have been yesterday afternoon or this morning.
But is it a half-hour briefing, a 1 hour?
Oh, how long?
Yeah, sorry, how long?
25 minutes.
25 minutes, really? I think there's you and at least 2 other agencies on the call.
There'll be further, I'm advised that there'll be further correspondence with us, but this is just a very initial high-level briefing for us.
How were you advised that there'll be further correspondence with you?
I think we were told in the communication that there'll be further information to come down the road.
The communication, the invitation to the briefing said, please come to this briefing and we will send you further information afterwards. What did it say?
Look, I can't remember exactly now, but we have been told that there'll be further information at a subsequent time.
Okay. Is that going to be provided in a one-on-one meeting, or we don't know?
We have no information.
Okay. Has this... until this is clarified, is this going to have an impact on your relationship with CASG?
Absolutely not. We're a very competent and driven organisation. We have our projects in place. We're driving to excellence. And in terms of, if I could say, the reason why the Commonwealth, in my view, purchased us is the protection of a very unique sovereign capability. This is world-leading technology, as I said in my opening address, and this technology needed to be protected to ensure that it not fall into any sort of foreign hands. And we have our projects, we're focused on those projects, and we're, with the new board in place, we're driven to excellence and to developing the company further. But these other relationships and what happens in defence is really of little relevance to us, because we need to perform in relation to our own projects.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious about the day-to-day point of contact with defence. How often, I mean, in the normal course of business, how often would you interact with CASG, the CEA Technologies in its entirety?
Well, there are two forms of relationship. One is in relation to the shareholder representatives, and as the chairman of the board, I hold monthly meetings with the two shareholder representatives, both from finance and defence, and I brief them on activities within the company, for example, the CEO engagement, and they also brief me on any matters that I should be aware of. Our second engagement is the commercial engagement, which is as a customer, and that's quite distinct from the shareholder engagement.
Yep.
And so the customer engagement is with the commercial side of CASG, and I have no reason to believe that that would change. Now, that is a daily and weekly engagement because of the multiplicity of programs that we currently have running and the engagement on a whole range of issues.
Has that daily and weekly engagement been interrupted at all by this announcement?
No, not at all.
So you're dealing that your employees, operators, continue to deal with CASG?
Precisely. Those same people are in place. Their relationships are the same. They're still talking about the same matters. There's been no change at all.
Okay, thank you. Does Mr. Crozer have anyone on the board?
Yes, he has one representative on the board, and himself, and also Merv Davis, who
You're
was
Mr.
in
Crozer's
fact,
representative on the board, are you, Mr.
Yes.
Davis?
And he was actually the previous CEO back in 2013 to 2019, hence the reason for me also bringing him, because he has enormous knowledge about the programs as well.
And then the other directors are nominees?
So the other directors are all Commonwealth appointed. So we have 6 Commonwealth appointed directors, including myself. 3 of whom were appointed at progressive stages from 18 months ago to about a year ago. And then the 3 new directors were appointed on the 28th of January of this year.
Okay. Well, I don't think I have any further questions, but thank you, Ms Morton, and my commendation to CEA Technologies for your excellent work on behalf of, well, for Australia and Australia's sovereign interests, and it was helpful for me to learn more about it this evening, so thanks for your patience with my questions.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Ms Morton. It is a delight to meet you, and look forward to, meeting you late into the night on numerous occasions into the future.
Yes. No, thank you very much. And we're delighted to be here. We didn't mind what time it was.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We're very much
Thank
looking forward to your successes into the future. We will release you from the program, and we will call the Commonwealth Superannuation Corporation to the table. That's the original press release.
Oh, thank you.
No, it's all right.
I was just curious. Come on this way.
I did actually. Well, they're new to us. Welcome, Mr. Hill, Chief Executive Officer, and other. And Mr. Young, sorry, your name tag is behind a glass and it looks a little distorted. It was hard to find it there. From the Commonwealth Superannuation Corporation. Mr. Hill, would you care to make an opening statement?
Thank you for the opportunity, Chair. Just mindful of the previous comments about the time of night, so we're quite happy to go straight to questions.
Okay, we are happy to have you give an opening statement should you choose.
I understand. I thought we were going to be on at 10:30, so I'd sort of pre-prepared. Let's go to questions before then.
Thank you very much, Senator Sharma.
Yeah, thank you. I'll start with some questions. Good evening, Mr. Hill and Mr. Young. The Commonwealth Superannuation Corporation, do you have any holdings in Reliance Industries?
Yeah, so with regard to the issue that's sort of been reported in the press, CSC has no exposure to Vitol Tank Terminals International. That was what was in the press to start with, or ATB Oil. However, with regard to the CSC's total exposure to Reliance Industries Limited, that's the oil and gas refining and marketing, we have a total via our international equity and corporate credit portfolios of $29 million, which is 0.036% of our total funds under management, and that's as of 25 November.
As of 25 November. And has that holding increased in dollar terms over the past year?
We hold those securities as part of generally our passive investment approach, consistent with industry benchmarks. Only one of our managers who hold an active position have held that stock, and they have reduced that stock because of appreciation in the value of those shares over the last period.
Okay,
and so that would apply, obviously, to some of our passive investing as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the dollar value of your holdings in Reliance Industries has been roughly static? Is that?
I can't say that I have those figures with me at the moment, Senator. I could take it up.
Yeah, if you could take on notice just how perhaps just over the past year how the
from the dollar figure, just clarifying it's the dollar relative dollar.
Yeah, so
exposure.
29 million as of 25th of November.
Not a percentage.
No, not a percentage, just actual dollar figure. Does the management of CSC have any concerns about Reliance's involvement, or it's the fact that it's a large importer of Russian crude oil, which is then transformed into secondary products and sold into other markets, including Australia, which de facto helps with the evasion of the sanctions regime which Australia is a part of against Russian crude oil products.
Yeah. Our underlying duty is a fiduciary duty to look after the best financial interests of our customers. That is the primary aspect of how we invest in the portfolios and how we construct portfolios. Part of that is obviously through index investing, which is a cheap way to access a number of investments when there are large companies in global indices, as Reliance Industries is, given its exposure, given its size within India. We are likely to pick that up as a matter of course of that index investing. It's more a case of where we have active managers, can we, the position in aggregate, which is well under benchmark across all of our active managers in global equities.
Are there any industries or sectors that you don't invest in as a matter of policy for internal social and governance policies? I mean, tobacco, weapons.
Yeah. So with regard to obviously the treaties, with regard to cluster munitions, etc., but that's a treaty, that's a legal obligation. So we have no
obligation.
Yeah. So we have no exposure in that regard. With regard to other aspects, we generally don't support or follow divestment. The two elements where it is different is with regard to tobacco, where an organisation or a company has more than 70% of their revenue generated through tobacco. That's on the basis that we think that's the riskless way, because we aren't being compensated for the risk of actually holding tobacco companies with a greater percentage of revenue generated there. And the other area is thermal coal, where we have the same limit, that if an organisation, if a company is generating more than 70% of their revenue from thermal coal, we think they are very exposed to the structural issues of the change of energy, and so we have excluded thermal coal over 70%.
So the basis of those decisions is the risk portfolio of the assets?
Whether the risk is being compensated for, taking into account a whole heap of risks. Obviously in the investment markets there is a significant number of risks that we have to weigh up. The ESG obviously is part of that, but it's one of a multitude of risks that we take into account, and trying to make a call in the best interest, financial interests of our customers about whether we're going to be compensated for that risk.
Have you recently examined the risk in connection with Reliance Industries and your holdings there?
Obviously, it was reported fairly recently. We've allocated our time to understanding exactly what our exposure was in that regard, but we haven't had a formal reassessment at this point in time. I do note that they are a large part of global indices because of their size in India, and through our passive investment portfolio to meet the benchmarks that are in various tests in the industry. We will continue to invest passively going forward.
I mean, they're exposed to considerable risk because of their dealing in Russian oil. I mean, you've had the United States impose 50% punitive tariff on Indian exports, in part because of India's assistance in evading the Russian sanctions. You've had Rosneft and Lukoil, which are two big suppliers of Reliance, hit with secondary sanctions by the United States as well, which is obviously having a material financial impact on Reliance Industries.
I would agree with that, Senator, and indeed if we look over the active positions that our group of managers take, the active managers take, they are well below benchmark in aggregate. So, taking that as a proxy for various investment managers making an assessment of the value and whether it's being compensated, the view based on that weighting is that the risk is not going to be compensated.
How would what would be the process at the CSC for? You said this sorry, forgive me if I misstate you here, but this holding is through one of your fund managers, and it's a passive holding, not an active one, so it's just part of an index holding, is that right, where it gives you exposure to India?
Well, for the managers that we have, passive managers that we have, it would be in their holdings, and so we would be at benchmark weight. With regard to managers that we appoint on an active basis, the aggregate of those, and the vast majority of those have zero holding in it, but in aggregate, we are well below benchmark in regard to reliance.
But so, like when it comes to, you mentioned your policies on tobacco and thermal coal, for instance. How do you direct your active and passive managers with respect to those holdings? Do you say that you can't put any of our money towards companies that generate more than 70% of their revenue from tobacco, or 70%?
Effectively,
you can direct them.
It's harder. We have to say what I need to take some of that on notice, Senator. But I think we try and exclude from a particular index. But I would need to come back and give a proper answer on notice in regard to the details of that.
And what would be the process for Commonwealth Superannuation Corporation assessing the risk level of its holdings in Reliance Industries? Is that something that goes to the board? Is it the risk committee? Is it the investment committee?
As per some of the other exclusions we've talked about earlier in this session, a change of government policy in regard to that would be one of the triggers that would cause us to...
A change of Australian federal government policy?
Other governments about, such as it was for cluster munitions, etc. like that. If that was, if we became aware that that was a change, then that would obviously, on any matter, but Reliance in this particular case, for us to reconsider exactly what our position would be.
So if the Australian government was to say we're no longer going to allow the importation of transformed Russian crude oil products, would that cause Commonwealth Superannuation Corporation to reassess its holdings in Reliance?
It would be based on the nature of whatever the policy was. I can't speculate on what the government, if there was a change of policy, what it would be. But if it became similar to the cluster munitions example, then obviously we would be in effect mandated because of the legality of that, of reviewing Reliance in those circumstances.
I see. Okay. So if the government took a policy decision, CSC would be obligated to change its holdings to ensure it's remained within the boundaries of Australian law.
We, amongst all other institutional investors.
Have you had any discussion with other, superannuation funds about this particular holding and risk, Reliance Industries?
I personally have not had any engagement. I'm unaware that others have had an engagement as well, but certainly I personally have not.
Okay. And have you had any communication from your members about this?
No. We're not aware, well, I'm not aware of any engagement from any of our customers on this matter.
What about union representatives that represent a large number of your members?
Again, I'm not aware that we've had any approach whatsoever on this matter.
Have they approached you about other holdings in the past? I mean, is it a known thing that they... Because you read about it in the media that, certain unions or members demand that their superannuation fund divest from this or divest from that.
I can't recall whether or an instance where the union has approached us or a union has approached us on a matter or an investment matter such as that. We obviously do from time to time receive inquiries from interest groups, individual members about various matters, some of which would relate to investment, their view on where we should invest.
Okay, would you mind just taking on notice whether you've had any communication from members or representatives of members about expressing concern about the holding in Reliance Industries. And I did just have one other small group of questions, if I might, Chair.
Delighted.
No
Please
other
go
demand?
ahead,
Okay.
Senator Shaw.
Has the CSC done any modelling on the impact of the government's proposed additional 15% tax on superannuation balances above $3 million?
When you talk about modelling, so not about the financial impact per se. Can I ask you to potentially clarify that question?
Maybe analysis is better. Like, have you looked at how many CSC members are above that threshold, what quantum they are above that threshold, what their potential liability would be, how many members would likely be affected by it in the next 10, 20, 30 years, that sort of level of modelling?
We certainly haven't done it over that extended forward period. We've looked at our current membership base. Now, I do need to say a bit of a proviso here. We might be only one of the super funds that our customers might hold, and we aren't to know whether they might have a second or third account somewhere else that might put them over the limit. But we estimate that currently there would be about 600 members in total who might be impacted in the short term.
That's 600 out of how many members in total?
About 750,000.
And would that number be expected to rise year on year? I presume so.
Yeah, we haven't done the modelling, so. No, we just haven't done the modelling of that to sort of see what the impact would be further down the track.
Okay.
Yeah, so we would rely on the government's modelling of the policy.
Okay. I have no further questions, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Hill. Thank you, Mr. Young.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Thank you, Mr. Young. Appreciate your time here this evening. I believe we're actually giving you an early mark, which is very unusual. Yes.
We'll take what we can. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
For the opportunity.
We do appreciate you coming in. Thank you so much. And that concludes today's hearing. We'd like to thank all of the witnesses that have appeared today, Broadcasting and Hansard for all the work they do, the Secretariat for all of their support. And I would now like to declare that this meeting of the Senate and Finance Public Administration Legislation Committee is adjourned.